Welcome to the Google Data Workbook information video. So this video, the purpose of it is to help you learn what the workbook can do for you and your grade level and your building and district, and then how to go ahead and go about setting that particular workbook up. So looking at this particular tab here, you see that it says Data Workbook Master 6. This workbook example will be for the one with 6 teachers. There are templates set up for 6 teachers, 10 teachers, 16 teachers, and 22 teachers. The 16 and 22 are typically reserved for middle school just because they typically have 2 to 4 teachers in a subject level, and then they teach 4 or 5 sections of that. And so that would give them, the ability to have all of their grade level in one workbook. If you have 5 teachers and 5 sections, that's 25. So we don't have one built for that. So if that's the case for you as you're watching this, you can send an email off to your consultant and say, hey, we could use a 25 teacher master if that's possible. So, and we'll see what we can do. But this landing page is what you see when you log into any of your workbooks. Your instructions are over here on the left-hand side. You can see those all here. They're step-by-step. So if you didn't want to listen to me, you can sit there and read through those. They scroll on down to the bottom as well. You can see on this page, after you've set your workbook up, what you look at the overall results of your grade level assessments. So you see your pre and your post, and you'll see those will change as teachers enter in the data. And so if you're just entering data for the first time, you'll just see pre-test results, and this side will be blank. If nothing's been entered at all, then the whole thing will be blank, obviously. And then down below, you see all your teacher data, individual class data as well. So these results for pre and post, so they can sit there and compare both of those. Okay, and that's your initial instruction tab right there. Okay, the next tab is called the Data tab, and this tab is where you enter in all the student names and information. And you see here, I've got 6 teachers laid out here, and I've got students in every cell. Okay, if you don't have 30 students in your class, then you can delete those and leave those cells blank, and that's just fine. And you can see that this is a very colorful page because we have the ability to keep track of 30 different subgroups. Okay, 5 different subgroups. There's 30 kids in these classes, so sorry. So over here to the right of the names in columns G and H, you see that there are 5 subgroups denoted by these items here: star star, ZZ, QQ, YY, and XX. You can, if you're part of the collaborative work grant, the star needs to be the IEP students, and so I wouldn't change this drop down at all. If you're not a CW school, then you don't need to worry about IEP students per se, so you can change this star to be whatever you would like it to be. The other ones, if you happen to need to track IEP or ELL students or African American students, or free and reduced students, or other, you can do so. You can see that the bottom one, the orange one, I've marked as intervention. It says invalid content because it's not one of the drop downs, but I changed the other to match intervention. If you have a group of intervention kiddos that you want to keep track on to see how their progress is, then you can mark them XX, and you can keep track of that progress using graphs and whatnot. So this gives you the ability to track as many different subgroups as you want, whether they are pre-made by you or whether they are made by their demographics. So that's up to you. Obviously, if you don't want to use that many, you don't have to use them at all. You notice that within this sample, there are no oranges on this because we have not marked anybody with the XX. But if I wanted to come over here and mark Aaron as an intervention kiddo, put XX and Excel, hit enter, and then it turns orange. And so now when I enter in their score, Aaron's score, it will track and manipulate that throughout the workbook. Check out Aaron and XX is there. Okay. Across the bottom, you see the number 30 here. That tells you the number of students that are in your class. And so as I take out those kids in the lead class, you see now there's 21 students here and then 171 students in the overall grade. You also should notice that this number populates right here. So total number of students in the grade, that goes from here to there, and this goes to the grant sheet, which if you're part of the CW is important for us. Okay, so I'll put those kids back in there because they have scores. Okay, come back over to this information to the right of the names. This is where you can change your grade level. So it goes all the way up to 8th grade. If you happen to be a high school, just let me know and I can add those high school grade levels in there as well. Pre and post test dates. When are you giving those post tests and pre tests? Those can be changed. So if you're setting this up before a unit, you can just put in what you think the date's going to be, and then you can come back and change those. This date, along with the standard that you're assessing, is populated on every teacher tab, and if it's not entered, there'll be a bright red box on every teacher tab until it's filled. You can't change it on the teacher tab. It needs to be changed here and given throughout. Obviously, maybe you'll have some classes that give a post test on different days than other classes just because of timing and everything else. You can just put a general date here. It doesn't have to be that exact. Maybe you even put on a date of when you go over the results of the assessment. So that date is kind of up to you guys. Then you have your points possible. You can add anything in here you want as long as it will fit. So I can change it to 100 if I want to. I can change. I'm going to leave it at 10. Then you have your 4 levels. If you only wanted 3, you can adjust those to just 3 for the grant. We have 4, but there's 4 available there. So the range of proficiency for this one is 10 to 7. So I don't need to put 10 to 7 in this cell here because the formulas represent or understand that the range is 10 to 7. Okay, so some teachers like to put in here and say 10 to 7. Well, it's not going to recognize that throughout the form. The formula is going to say, we don't know what that means. So it's not going to calculate, and you'll come up with error messages. So just put in the lowest score of that level, and then everything else will take care of it. So close to proficiency knows it's between 7 and 4, and so on down the line. Okay. It will configure a SMART goal for you. If you have a lot of intervention kiddos because of the assessment or because it's a brand new material, then you may want to say no. Some of the SMART goals may still appear just because of the way some of the new features that have been added. This number represents the number of scores that have been entered. So this number here on the post test and this number here should match, or at least be close. If you have students that are absent or students that move, it's going to be off for 1 or 2 or a couple here, depending on that, but it should not be off by 25. So as you enter in scores, this number will start tabulating and making its way toward the total number of students in your grade. Grade level information, depending on what content level you're scoring, that goes in here. Who's your consultant, and then when did you submit it to your consultant there? And that's again if you are a CW school. Okay, so that is all the information on the data tab. Also, a lot goes in here. Once you enter this information once, then you can just make a copy of your template. That way, you don't have to enter in everything again. Then all you have to do is adjust things as students come and go, or get new IEPs or whatever. So that way you do it once, and then it's taken care of for the rest of the year, and then just some tweaking along the way. All the teacher tabs are the same, so we're going to take a look at teacher tab number 1. You see it, the tab is called teacher tab 1, and if you want to, you may definitely change that to the name of the teacher. So I can change this to Lee because that is this teacher's name. I'm going to change it back just because it's a template. But yes, you can change that. It will not mess up any of the formulas or anything like that, so that is just fine. You see this is the standard being assessed that comes from the first tab, and here are those dates that come from the first tab. If I go ahead and turn or delete estimation and come back to the teacher 1 tab, you see that's bright red. So hopefully it kind of stands out and says, ooh, we need to put in a standard that's been assessed. What do these scores represent? And so we'll kind of put that back in there. Okay, and so that red will go away. All right. So you see on this page here are all your students, are the students for Lee, and the subgroups are all there as well. The subgroup color is dependent on the hierarchy. So if depending on where they fall, if they're yellow and ELL, and you've got them both marked, it's going to be colored yellow. If they're ELL and free and reduced, it's going to be the color of ELL. These are hierarchical based off what you see here. That's how they are laid out. But yes, you can mark students in multiple categories. You see this one, Earl is ZZQQ, so they are in 2 different categories. Okay. Um, those names are theirs. You don't have to worry about retyping them in. They all show up automatically. This will be blank on yours. As you get scores, you just type in your scores. If you've already entered them somewhere else, you should be able to copy and paste them depending on where those scores happen to be. Otherwise, you just have to re-enter them there. Okay. Here's your points possible. It populates from that first tab as well. You get a score average. So this class had a 4 out of 10 average on the pretest, and then about a 7 out of 10 average on the post-test. So that calculates automatically. Here are your individual class results. So I can see that I had 11 students that were close to proficient, 5 students that were proficient, and 6 students that are in the intervention category. But on my post-test, I had 22 students that were proficient. 2 SMART goals are generated automatically. Like I said, if you say no to the SMART goal, then this one will probably end up being blank, but your classroom SMART goal will still appear. And that's just because of the way I have it set up. So if you can still say no and change things, then you can come in here and change this number. Notice that it is a formula, so just keep that in mind. If you do make a copy of this, that formula probably won't exist next time. So you just want to make sure that you know how to do that if you get rid of it. Otherwise, you can just kind of put it off to the side or something like that. Okay. This SMART goal is generated from the summary of the pretest, and so is this. This is for the whole grade level, and this is just for your class, specific to you. We put in some reflection um, areas in here because the whole point of this is to look at the results, kind of think about what you're going to do, what to help students grow. After the test is all over, think about, okay, I still have 3 students that are in the far to go. What can I do next time to help them maybe push them a little further, so that results or the reflection can kind of go here. This section right here, both the graph and the reflection pieces are really directly tied into your evaluation, talking about helping helping you show growth. That's kind of what this is all about. Hopefully, that benefits you when come February or January or whenever your evaluation happens to be. You can have the documents you need to show growth and help that whole evaluation thing go a little easier for you. So um, underneath the graphs, you see the different levels that are here, the percentages of each level, and then if you met the SMART goal or not. This is your SMART goal here, so you can see that my level 4 percentage is actually 73%. Our SMART goal is 80%. So if I come over here, and there are 4 scores here that are really low, if I change them to higher scores, you can see that I hit finally my 80%. I'm at 83% now. And then yes, we've met our SMART goal of 80% or more. Okay, so that indicator there will tell you how you're doing. Underneath here, you see all the different subgroups. So you've got all students. So there's 83% are in my proficient category. So that number should match these numbers here. Okay. And then, so you have all of them here. So again, talking about your evaluation graphs that you can copy and paste into, or you just print this page, or however you want to do it, and then that is direct evidence of student growth and what you're doing to meet student needs. So again, all teacher tabs are the same. If you're used to using this data workbook, you used to have a post-test tab separate from the pre-test tab. No longer the case. The post-test goes right next to the pre-test, so it sits right there side by side. So you don't have to worry about multiple tabs. It's only on one tab now. When you get into your groups, your PLCs, and you start talking about student data, you may go to the summary pre. Here's where it kind of lays out your students into the different levels. And so you will see the different results of the scores here. Here's where your SMART goal comes from over here. And so I'll just leave that alone so it doesn't mess up any of those formulas there. To generate a SMART goal, if you say yes, if you say no, this will just be blank. And so that way you'll see everything there. And so that'll be automatically generated unless you say no. 2 steps that you'll take to help meet student needs and help increase student growth. Step 4 and step 5. Pre-analysis is step 4, and then there's actually a step 5 tab. You may or may not be using this depending on expectations of your administrator, your consultant, and your PLC group. But these steps really will force yourself into PLC to kind of talk about what you're going to put in place to increase your student growth. And so all this information, you have plenty of room. They will expand out so that you can type in as much as you want. The strengths, the errors, and the instructional strategies. These are three areas that the collaborative work looks at. We don't have to submit them yet, but they are nice to have, and we are allowed to submit them. So if you fill those out, that would be fantastic. And they do show up on the uh, CW grant sheet that's at the end of this page here, at the end of this workbook. Okay. Step 5 takes a little further. Okay, what do the results look like? What are the next steps? And what are the built behaviors, that kind of thing. So you're going to kind of go through and add in some additional detail to this particular unit. Here's your post. So there's your post results. You see here 77% was your SMART goal. 62% were proficient, so no, you did not meet your SMART goal. Again, that would change if you were above the 77% threshold. Another valuable one is the comparison of student growth. So you can see names actually change from one grade level to the next, or one class to the next. And so it's very nice to see there. On the totals page, it used to be called the grant sheet or whatever it was. I can't remember what it officially was called, but guide has changed the totals. This is where you'll find it. It is the grant sheet that we have to turn in for part of CW. This information up here is automatically populated from the first tab. And then, like I said, this is the strengths, this errors, and the instructional strategies that come from the pre-analysis tab. Underneath here, you see all your totals. So your totals for IEP and different subgroups. If you change your subgroups, these will change with them, so you'll be able to keep track of. You see intervention here, keep track of what that, and then you see your percent change here. If for some reason that there are students that did not, these numbers don't match, so there's 24 here, there's only 22 here, or maybe that you've marked that there are 24 IEP students, but only 22 are taking the assessment, you give the reasons here because we have to submit that data, that information to DESE as well. And also, if you have students in general, you don't take a pre-test or a post-test, you put that in the notes section here so we can make that notation as well. The grade level graphs all are right here on the graphs tab. So you see the tab, these two at the top are the ones you saw on the instructional tab, the very first tab. So those are the same that are there. But underneath it, these are the subgroup information. So all your student subgroups will come right here, that information. The next tab is a new one that we had a request. Some teachers thought it would be nice to be able to put student work in a workbook so that when they come back to it, or when they say, here's what we think is proficient or what proficient work looks like, they can take a screen capture or they can put in links to student work, and so that they actually have the documentation all in one location. Again, could be an optional page, so you can just hide it if you're not going to use it, but otherwise you can insert through the image, and using your snapshot, you can take a picture using your webcam, or you can link it to a student work page or that kind of thing. So it's pretty. And then the final tab is a troubleshoot tab. So if you come across some issues and you're not sure how to fix them, some of the issues or how-tos are here, and some of the errors you may see are here as well. Common errors are teachers like to cut and paste. Cut is a bad thing. Don't cut anything, because when you cut, all of the formulas will adjust as well. And you may not want those formulas to adjust. And so do not cut anything out. If you have a student that leaves, you can hit the delete button and delete their name, and it won't mess things up. The formula stay there, but not on the teacher tab. You do that on the data tab. So if you have any questions, please consult your consultant, or email your administrator. Hopefully we will have an opportunity to come and sit down with you and get you started with this. There's a help ticket, so if something is not on here and you're like, this error popped up, you can put this in here and say, hey, I have this issue, and then we will get someone to assist you and create a new video to hopefully meet those needs. And so that is how you set up your data workbook, and that is the purpose and everything behind it. Hopefully this was a helpful video, and a little longer than I expected, but that's okay. And hopefully you find this workbook beneficial and worth your time to use. Thank you.